This is a paid advertisement.
With over $25 billion recovered for over 500,000 clients, Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation.
Coolmore America, often referred to as the home of champions, is home to some of the best young sires in the United States. The stallion roster is led by Triple Crown winners Justify and American Pharaoh, and with a fantastic combination of proven sires and exceptional young sire prospects standing alongside the illustrious duo, it's safe to say Ashford's iconic stallion barns will continue to house influential breed shapers for many years to come.
It's episode 5 of the Andy Beshear Podcast, and we are on location at Churchill Downs during Derby week. This is going to be fun. No politics this week, just taking you inside the Kentucky Derby and thoroughbred racing. You're going to hear about how people train these horses from the trainer that won last year's Kentucky Derby. You're going to hear what it's like to run a thoroughbred operation. A former 9-year veteran of the Buffalo Bills, an all-pro, is going to talk about the athletes and celebrities that descend on Louisville for the Derby. It's going to be a lot of fun. We hope you enjoy it. Big thanks to Churchill Downs for hosting us today. Let's get to it. Our first guest on this special Derby episode of the Andy Beshear Podcast is Kenny McPeek. Kenny was the winner not just of last year's Kentucky Derby, but of Kentucky Oaks as well. That's the first time that's been done since 1952. It's only been done several times in our history. Kenny, welcome to the Andy Beshear Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So we've been friends for a while, but last year was something special. Winning the Oaks, winning the Derby. So let me start with the toughest question. What's it like to dominate Derby weekend?
A lot of fun, a whole lot of fun. You know, we put years and years of hard work into all this, and it's so hard. I mean, and for both these horses to accomplish what they accomplished, to help us accomplish. I mean, it's really about the horses. Really neat thing. And so, since you're here, I don't know if you remember, but I told you, I said, one day you're going to hand me that trophy.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I believe in channeling things. I think that if you focus in on something and you believe you're going to do it, you can do it. And for whatever reason, I always knew you would do that. Thank you.
So Torpedo Anna for the Kentucky Oaks, Mystic Dan for the Derby, and you were pretty confident about both of them. I remember seeing you saying, we're going to win the Oaks.
Well, she was a filly that she is so big and strong. And I actually had one reporter asked me, I mean, what do you think your chances? And I said, all I know is they better bring a bear because I'm bringing it Grizzly.
Wow.
And they've nicknamed her the Grizzly since then.
How many horses have you had like that where you are so confident even going into such a big race?
Not that many. Yeah, but she helps you exude confidence. And she's in again this weekend. So Friday's a big day for her, and she gets to show off her talents here. Hopefully she gets it done. But, you know, that she's a rare one. A modest pedigreed horse, but just on the physical, just an amazingly well-made filly, a great mind on her, and you know, like a world-class athlete that she is. I mean, she does things easily.
So they say that you work with working-class horses. Tell us, you know, what that means, how it differentiates you from other trainers.
Well, okay, so I think the better way to verbalize it would be more that I find bargains at auction. All my career, I started my career as a small trainer in Lexington. And I convinced one of my clients when I was young, in my 20s, that if he'd let me buy him a yearling. And I bought him a filly named Warside, men in Roy Monroe. Great family over there in Lexington. And Roy, we had a lot of wins with that filly. And then 2 years later, he let me go back to auction, and I bought my first Derby horse named Tahana Run for $20,000. So I've got this great vase of clientele that, you know, look, I don't need somebody that has $1 zillion. I think that...
But it is helpful.
Yeah, it is. But, you know, at the same time, good horses come from anywhere and everywhere. And so when you're working auctions, you're worried about, like, which is the best horse in the group. You don't really worry about what they cost. You have to focus in on which ones you think you can win with. And It's a very artistic thing. For those that have never been to a yearling sale, of course, we've got the best ones here in Kentucky at Keeneland and Fasig-Tipton. But that's where I've really kind of started my career, is working these sales.
And you won the Belmont in 2002.
2002.
But then had to wait
Wow.
for the Derby win 22 years later. How excruciating is it?
29 years.
29 years left.
Oh my goodness. If you had asked me it would have taken that long, I would have thought, no, I can do that before. But I'd had a list of good horses going into the Oaks and the Derby, but I had been second, had 3 seconds of the Oaks. And then the Derby after Tejano Run, I had some horses that coulda, woulda, shoulda, but that's part of the allure of it and why it's so hard. It's not easy.
So this podcast is about getting beyond just the what and oftentimes to the why. Hearing the interesting things about people's life that drove them in a certain direction. So you were very close to not being in this business at all. I think you went through college and you looked at becoming a stockbroker, but you opted instead to take a job as a hot walker. Now, this is a family show. So if you could explain what your why about doing that, and also what is a hot walker?
Well, I didn't have a hot walk. So let's do that first. When a hot walker is someone that when a horse goes to the racetrack, they come back, somebody has to grab that horse and walk it while it's hot. And then you have to cool it down slowly. Mm-hmm. And typical hot walking is 30 minutes. Well, a horse gets a bath. You walk for 30 minutes, maybe graze for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you maybe walk them 10 more minutes. And so once that horse is done hot walking or cooling out, then you go to the next one.
So you really took a risk. I mean, going from coming in as a stock broker to starting.
Well, I don't want to eat up all your time, but it's a long story. That I was a classic C+ B- student, and in 1984, interest rates.
There's hope for you, John.
There's hope for me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
1984, there were 18% interest rates coming out of school. There weren't a lot of job opportunities. And I actually finished my last class at UK, and my roommates all threw a little party for me. And I was sitting on a sofa with a friend of mine, and I said to him, wow, I've got to get a job. And he says, well, what do you love? I said, well, that's easy. I love horse racing. He slapped me on the shoulder and said, good, I'm going to bed. It was 4:05 in the morning. I have a photographic memory. I can still remember the digital clock. And I sit there and I kind of was taken aback, and I thought to myself, he's right. Do you know he works for me today?
Really? That's amazing.
He helps run my farm.
That's amazing.
And, I just started doing it, and I've been, winning a race is this unique thrill at all levels, whether it's a claiming horse or the Kentucky Derby. There's a real thrill to putting the work in. Mm-hmm. And then when you win that race, there's a lot of satisfaction in that. And so I got hooked on it, and I think I'm a couple thousand wins now, and I'm going to keep going.
So if you're talking to the casual spectator and they say, you've trained all these horses, how should I pick a winner? What do you tell them?
Well, I would love for people to spend more time reading pedigrees. Mm-hmm. Like when you open a program, look at who the sire is. Look at the mare's name, the broodmare's
That and them all.
Yeah. And what people don't realize about thoroughbred racehorses, it's one of the most analyzed mammal in the history of mankind. They have studied the thoroughbred for centuries, and all the genetics and the bloodlines are. It's really one of the most interesting things about the horse is the breeding, but it's not all about dambling. It's about looking at horses and recognizing the bays and the chestnuts and the grays and then how they're made and what are the family lines. And it's really a bit, like, I guess a bit of a chess match. And you learn how to mate horses, and you want at good speed, the distance, and conformationally. Like, for example, you don't want breeding. You don't want to breed a wine glass to a beer bottle.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
It's a bad analogy, but horses are that way.
Also makes you sick the next morning.
Yes, you have skinny horses. You have blocky horses, and so you're trying to do all that. But people that invest in breeding horses are amazing because it's one of the most difficult things ever.
So in this last year especially, you are now across all types of media. You have a podcast. Tell us about that.
Well, I invented an app, actually. Horse Races Now. it's been in the market for over a decade. We've got almost 1,000,001 users in 223 countries.
John, that sounds like a great sponsor for the Andy Beshear Podcast,
That'd be a
a Derby
fantastic
edition.
sponsor.
Wait, we leave county every month. We actually have this huge base, and it continues to grow. For those that are interested in this, if you download the Horse Races Now app, you simply register, and then it'll send you notifications for your favorite tracks, horses, jockeys, governors.
Good. I hope it just sends you one name.
There we go.
And you're also now on a Netflix show.
Yeah, that's been an interesting journey. Somewhat interesting how that evolved. I think they put me in as more was kind of a supporting cast, and then we ended up winning both races. So they used a lot of our footage. My wife,
I got to stand up there next to you.
yeah, my wife and my daughter and my dog are prominent.
Yeah.
And all that, but we were just ourselves, and we had a blast with it, and we were fortunate enough that the horses ran super. And look, I've always wanted to promote our sport. I've always felt like we need to figure a way to grow it. I think it's one of my life passions is to figure out how to grow this sport.
One of the striking memories I have of last year is your daughter walking with you across that track, how proud she was, standing with you for that photo with the horse, getting up there for the Derby presentation. How special was it to share it?
Well, my whole family, I think kids and grandkids, and seemed like all the whole family made it except for my oldest daughter, because that, she had something else going on, but she'll come this year. But, the weird one about that, and I haven't told many people about how I actually felt going into the circle. I had a trainer friend of mine, an older trainer, who passed away, and through a series of events, I ended up with his urn, his ashes. And so for those out there that remember Ronnie Warren, who had been second in Kentucky Derby as a trainer when, back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, he was really strong. But he died, and when I got his ashes, what do you do with those, right? I took him to the finish line at Oaklawn. I took him to the finish line at Keeneland.
Yeah.
And I finished the last portion of the urn. I spread in the roses.
Wow.
Around the Derby circle. And I hadn't stepped foot in there since I had done that. It was like he was standing there. It was weird.
So you got to share this pinnacle moment of your career with a friend.
He would have been so proud.
Is so
makes
proud.
me emotional.
Is so proud.
But it's one of those things that I never realized that, I believe in a higher power. It's there. There's no doubt. You got to believe in it. And Ronnie Warren was an amazing horseman. Didn't have quite the opportunities that I've had, but taught me a lot.
This year, Kenny has a horse that has a very special story from an owner who's no longer with us, but whose name most of you would know. Tell us a little bit about your entry this year.
Render Judgment is owned by Toby Keith and his family. I had started buying horses for Toby a couple of years ago, and obviously passed away a year ago, February. And so this is a really emotional thing for him and his family. Some say, his family says that Toby liked horse racing more than he did music.
Really?
Yes. And that's saying a lot. And he was obsessed with it. Loved to go to the races. Loved to, banter up with a lot of the horsemen. He knew most of us. You'd see him a lot at Oaklawn Park. And he was known to come in and perform for Breeders' Cup events. But he would be so happy to know that his horse made the race. And, realistically, the horse needs to show a whole lot more. But I do think we've got a little higher power riding along with us. And Toby's family is just really excited about the horse running. And, we're going to lead him over there with all the optimism we can. And I think the horse will run well. I mean, I think he can perform well.
Do you have a favorite Toby Keith story from a day at the track that you can share?
I don't know. It might be a little bit, because he was a funny guy now.
Yes.
My youngest daughter, we had her in a stroller when we were at the races at Oaklawn. And he walks up and he says, "Is that your granddaughter?" I said, "No." I said, "That's my daughter." He says, "You're still breeding?"
Oh, wow. To a horseman, to a trainer.
I said, yeah, Toby. He looked at me, he's like, you crazy.
We've had a good Willie Nelson story. We've had a good turkey losing its pardon story.
Yeah.
And now we got a good Toby Keith story.
Yeah. He was a good man.
In this special Kentucky Derby episode of the Andy Beshear Podcast, we're trying to take you not just inside the Kentucky Derby, but inside thoroughbred racing itself. So John Rabinowitz is joining me for my next guest, Charlie O'Connor, who is Director of Sales at Coolmore America, one of the largest thoroughbred operations in the country. And they are home to the two living Triple Crown winners, American Pharoah and Justify. Charlie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Andy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Charlie, from a very young age, you knew that this is what you wanted to do.
Yeah, from a very young age, I grew up in County Kildare in Ireland, and it's where most of the trainers train in Ireland, so it's a little bit like Lexington, where I've ended up. And we rode ponies from a very young age, and from a very young age, I knew that that's all I wanted to do.
Did you ever think you were going to be a jockey?
I actually did, which is a little bit frightening compared to the size I am now. I thought, though, I wasn't going to be a flat jockey. I thought I might have been a national hunt jockey.
So you know my son, Will.
I certainly do.
Will is 6'3", 6'4", and I remember as a kid, he said, I'm going to be a jockey. And I said, Will, you might be a little too big. And he said, you can't tell me what to do with my body. Yeah.
And Charlie, just out of curiosity, when was the last time you were on a horse?
It's been a while ago, but I've probably about 10 years ago. But I'm still able to throw my leg over one if I had to.
But in seriousness, you work inside this industry where you take and you train these horses. You try to pick the one that could be that next Kentucky Derby winner. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell the listeners, what it's like to constantly be looking for that next amazing athlete.
We're in this business and we love horses, and it starts off with the foaling season, which is one of the nicest times of the year. It's in the spring in Kentucky, and when you can't wait when you hear that your mare foaled last night. You can't wait to go up and look what the foal looks like, and then to see that foal progress during the summer, and then to see it being weaned off his mother. Then the next stage is he grows into be a nice yearling. And you're looking at these animals constantly to see how they're performing and how they're progressing and turning in. Then the time is to pick a trainer. Mm-hmm. And we've been very fortunate that in Coolmore at home, we have Aidan O'Brien, who trains most of our horses. You want to get what you feel is the best trainer possibly for your horse.
Charlie, as you know, we host these big guests at Keeneland and here at Churchill Downs. And one of the questions we get asked all the time is, how does the trainer pick the jockey?
A trainer tries to have a relationship with a jockey, but then there's a jockey's agent, and he's there trying to pick the best mounts for his jockey because that's his job. But the trainer wants to build up a relationship and wants him to ride a lot of his horses. So it's a tricky
So the
job
trainer and the agent are fighting over the jockey's time?
Correct.
And I'm guessing compensation.
Correct. And it can be nasty.
These things
I know a lot of these jockeys, and I'll see them and I'll say, will you ride our horse next week? And they'll all go, yeah, Charlie, yeah, we'll ride for you.
Just call
my
agent.
And no, he won't even say that. Then the horse is entered into the race and there's a different jockey. And I go, what the hell happened here? Well, the agent got in the way, Charlie. The agent wouldn't ride him.
Charlie, we had Kenny McPeek here earlier.
Yeah.
And he talked about how winning at any level is still a thrill.
Of course it is.
Do you agree with that?
100%. We get as much joy, your horse winning at any level, because it's such a thrill and it's such a difficult thing to do. And to even be sitting here in Kentucky Derby week, and we're lucky to be involved with 3 horses. It's a dream, and it's so difficult to get here.
Do you remember your first big win?
I do actually. I'll tell you, it was probably not till I got to America till it was in Keeneland. And if you're from Kentucky and you live in Kentucky, Keeneland is your track and you want to win. And we won a maiden race for actually John Morgan. And that was a big thrill for us. That was his first time being involved on a horse. And his dream was also to win in Keeneland. And then our next race was to come to Churchill. So we hit Keeneland and Churchill in Kentucky.
So when we look at the Triple Crown, I think it's the hardest thing to win in sports.
Yeah.
You see so many horses winning the first two, the Derby and the Preakness. Well, we had, 3 straight years at one point where it looked like we had some dominant horses, but then the Belmont comes along. Your farm, your operation has the 2 living Triple Crown winners, American Pharoah and Justify, the 2 most famous racehorses in my lifetime, except maybe when I was 1 affirmed, or maybe when I was born, Seattle Slough, which I will miss later in the episode when asked about. Tell us what they're like, those 2 horses.
Unbelievable. And to be involved, we bought into American Pharoah at the end of his 2-year-old career. He was a champion 2-year-old. And to be on that journey with him going through the Triple Crown, I must say it was very, very, very exhausting. We probably drank a lot of champagne, but to see him have his offspring. He's 2 runners in the Derby this year. He's going to have another horse that we own with Ron Winchell running the Preakness, and to see them progress to be sires of good horses, it's amazing. To talk about American Pharoah, he loves being shown. He's like a family pet. He loves,
which is rare for a stallion.
Which is pretty rare because they're covering a lot of mares, and they're pretty high energy. But this guy is just, and this will show you how he was so good at the Triple Crown, because he was able to handle everything. He loves coming out and be shown to people and loves being fed carrots. Now, the other fella, Justify, he's a different story. He's a bigger horse. He's a little bit more rambunctious and, a little bit more of a man. I'm the man here, so you don't want to take your eyes off him.
What's the best story that you have from either American Pharoah or Justified?
When Vice President Mike Pence came to the farm, and all he wanted to do was see American Pharoah, and to see his entourage come up the main avenue of the farm, and we all got out, or he got out, and we all greeted him. He couldn't wait to come down and see American Pharoah, and American Pharoah came out, and he just stood there, and the Vice President went to pat him, and he nipped him in
American Pharoah bit the Vice President of the United States. Did the Secret Service sleep with the horse?
There was a little bit of movement, and then he was quickly kind of went away, but he took it in his stride, in fairness.
Was the horse ever charged by a federal prosecutor?
No, but it did, I think, come up in a story the following year that American Pharoah, the Triple Crown winner, bit the Vice President.
So this Triple Crown winner, who's like a family pet, chose this one person to bite, and it was the Vice President of the United States.
If he had to bite anyone, the Vice President of
So it didn't happen before, and it hasn't happened after.
No.
So we've had a Willie Nelson story. We've had a story of a turkey losing its pardon because it charged the media, and now American Pharoah biting the Vice President. Charlie O'Connor, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
My pleasure, Andy. Thank you very much for having me.
The Andy Beshear Podcast is excited to invite our next guest, a friend of mine, Eric Wood. Eric was a star at the University of Louisville. He went on to play 9 seasons for the Buffalo Bills. Now lives back in Louisville, though is the color commentator for the Buffalo Bills radio network. Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's quite the honor.
Well, we're thrilled that you're here, and it's Derby Week. How much do you love Derby Week?
I love it. I loved it when I was in college. Now we do Derby a lot different now than we did it in college. But for me, being from Louisville, this is a special weekend every year to bring people in town, show them the city, show them the best week of the year in our town. It's really special.
So you are the first professional athlete we've had on the Andy Beshear podcast.
The only athlete so far.
Yes, probably the only athlete. No, Will was on. High school athlete.
That's true.
So I want to start by talking a little bit about your career, and then I want to move and talk specifically about Derby and how it brings out athletes and celebrities. One of the things that fascinates me about your career is you leave high school as a 2-star recruit. Yet within, 2 years, you are a freshman All-American at U of L. I mean, was that work? Was that effort? What took you from the 2-star to being one of the top-rated offensive linemen in the NCAA?
Well, I'll say this, there's a good amount of luck to it. You got to fall into the right situation where you can get on the field. And I wish I could say that I looked at the situation in Louisville and it was the perfect situation for me to come in and start right away as a redshirt freshman. But it was my only scholarship offer. And so it made the decision very easy for me. So, I said this when I got into U of L's Hall of Fame. I said I had one goal when I got here, and that was to make sure they got a great return on their investment. I hope that this is a sign that they got a great return. But at U of L at that time, we had incredible coaches, starting with Coach Petrino, his entire staff. Jeff Brom was on that staff.
Yes.
That's actually the one who recruited me. And so we had an incredible coaching staff. I was like a sponge. I loved basketball. I'd only played one season of O-line, so I didn't have bad habits, and they could kind of form me into what they wanted. I put in a lot of hard work, but, I was fortunate to be in a great position as well.
So you go through your years at U of L, and then you are a first-round draft pick. Actually, 2 centers, I think, that year.
Yep.
And the first time that had happened in a while. So we all watch the NFL draft, and you see the video of people in their homes sitting with their parents and the phones in front of them, and you just start wondering what it's got to feel like waiting for that call, and then when it rings.
The 27th pick had not even fully been announced as I'm getting a call from a 716 area code, which would changed my life. I played my entire career for them. I still work for the Bills. I call their games on the radio, host a podcast for them now, and have a lot of fun still being involved in the organization.
So when the phone number pops up, did you know what the 716 area code was?
No, I did not.
But just who had the next pick?
Yeah. I knew Buffalo had the next pick. I did not know their area code at the time. It was an incredible situation for me to hop into.
Eric, I will tell you, I had my first experience this year in Buffalo. I was blessed to see the 49er game where it was, I think, like wind chill, -30, and it was snowing. I don't know how many inches. People acted like there was snow on the ground, but I've never seen a better fan base in any of my NFL experiences. I mean, was it like that your whole career?
It was, and I was playing for all of my career. My final regular season game was when we broke the playoff drought. It was the longest playoff drought in all of professional sports at the time, 17 years. And this fan base still stuck behind us. We'd be pulling into a game for a December game when we're already eliminated from the playoffs.
Oh, wow.
And here's all the fans in the parking lot with their little garbage cans. Yeah, garbage can bonfires, their shots on a ski.
Jim Kelly jerseys, Thurman Thomas jerseys.
Absolutely. Now they're all Josh Allen jerseys, but at the time it was, the 90s Bills jerseys. But it's an incredible, passionate fan base that makes it a lot of fun to play for.
So 9 years playing, and then moved over pretty quickly into the broadcast booth. And tell us about that.
Yeah, so for an offensive lineman that didn't play in a very big market, you got to transition into the media world quick if you want to get in. So fortunately, I had been great to the guys that had covered our team for years on a national level and local level. Many of them reached out and said, hey, if we can ever do anything, let me know. A couple guys like Ian Rappaport and Mike Silver, they connected me with their agent, and they were able to get me over with Fox first, then ESPN. And then ultimately, I've settled in on this Bills radio gig. And I grew up in Cincinnati. Dave Lapham's been calling games on the radio for about 30
I mean, you're a huge Bengal fan.
I am.
So about 35 years. And I always wondered, why did Dave do this all these years? Because it's fun.
Yeah.
Because it's fun to be around a team. We're allowed to talk about them. We're allowed to cheer for them during the game. You're still working, but it's a lot of fun. And now that my kids are into it and all that, it makes it more fun bringing them to games.
That's great.
So first, tell us about the podcast. We launched this not long ago, and always looking to learn.
Yeah, so I've watched the first episode, and you guys are doing a great job. And to me, the podcast world, for someone in my situation, probably like yourself, you learn the other side of the mic. You're used to other people asking you questions all the time. You learn the other side of the mic, which is valuable, especially when you transition to media. And so I have a podcast now called the Center on Buffalo podcast. And our most recent guest is Sean McDermott. We recorded 30 minutes prior to the draft starting the other night. He's in his dress shirt and coat. Ripped on him for dressing up for the podcast.
Also a great human being, by the way.
Yeah, Sean McDermott.
yeah.
It's not like having Eric Wood on your podcast.
Yeah.
But you did all right.
Yeah, this podcast world's pretty fun.
Let's talk about Derby.
Yep.
So what we've seen, especially over the last several years, is the Derby isn't just getting bigger and bigger about the number of people watching and the number of people coming here, but the athletes and the celebrities that are showing up seems to grow every year. Tell us a little bit about the draw.
Yeah, I mean, the draw is, I think it's the most fun sporting event to go in the country, and it's bar none the best sporting event to bring your wife to. They get to do the red carpet. They get to dress up.
That is a
Place
good call.
You place a few bets for them. They get into it. You get your show pool going. You make the women choose the bets. And so I've learned how to kind of win over the wives of the group too. They talk about it. They want to keep coming back. You know, the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Rodgers of the world, they kind of made it popular as NFL guys to come here, where now the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes, and that crew, they want to come be a part of it. And it's just a special time. The energy around the Derby is like nothing else, because there's not two competing fan bases showing up for a game. We're all here to have a great time, place a few bets, you know, show off your outfits, whatever it may be. And so it's a more positive atmosphere than most sporting events that you'll go to.
So what is your favorite thing to tell people who are coming in to Derby for the first time that they have to do or experience or remember?
You know, get your outfits right. I tell them, get your outfits right.
I'm trying.
Because you look great.
Thank you.
Sean, we need some more.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
Always
You always
does.
look sharp. No, he always
Always
looks sharp.
does.
He always looks sharp.
All right, listen, I get grief every podcast.
Everyone.
But get your outfits right, because I tell them, every time I go visit a former teammate of mine or someone from out of town that's coming in, when I walk into their living room, it's a picture of them from the red carpet at the Derby. So make sure that you get your outfits right, because you're going to have that picture for the rest of your life. But when people come in, I just tell them, you know, bring some cash, get ready to have some fun, and let loose, because it's just such an incredible atmosphere.
So the Derby every year is obviously right here at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky, but you chose to come back to Louisville to make this your home. Let's close on telling the listeners what you love about Louisville and why you wanted to raise your family here.
Yeah, so I love the people of Louisville. I grew up on the west side of Cincinnati and still have a lot of love for that area and appreciate the man that area turned me into. But when I got down here, my wife's from here, and the friends we have here, the people we have here, the connections we have here, I always kept a house here when I was playing in Buffalo. This was always going to be home based.
Right.
I built my dream home here in 2016, right as I'd signed a contract extension, knowing that one day this would be home for us. And so we have a lot of love for this city. This city embraced me from the second I got here, and all the people have. And so I'm grateful to be a part of this community and give back to it in as many big ways as we can.
Well, it's helpful that at the time you were very, very, very good at football, and now are committed to giving back, whether that's going to the Bellarmine events or others. We're really blessed to have you as a part of this community. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Wood. Each week, I talk in my Kentucky accent, a segment where I normally talk about what burns me up, what's really gotten to me that week. But we're doing things differently this week. During the Kentucky Derby, families make memories that last a lifetime, but you don't have to be here to do that. Remember, life's short, so turn off the news, take a break, and spend some time with the people you love. Those are the things we treasure. So let's make sure we get out there and enjoy this great life we've been blessed with. I'm now joined by John McConnell and our next guest, Mike Ziegler, who is the general manager of Churchill Downs. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Andy. Pleasure to be here.
So most people think of Churchill Downs as this incredible track behind us with the twin spires, but Churchill Downs is a company with a lot of different holdings. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So Churchill Downs started with this racetrack and then expanded to multiple racetracks. We have a presence throughout Kentucky with 3 thoroughbred tracks and a standardbred track. We have an ADW company, account wagering company that's based here in Kentucky. We have casinos throughout the Northwest and down all the way through Mississippi and Louisiana. We have a casino in New York, casino in Iowa. So we started as a small thoroughbred racetrack in Louisville, Kentucky, expanded, but we're housed right here in Commonwealth.
Not so small anymore.
Not so small anymore.
But we love that you're housed here and continuing to grow and to get into different areas.
That's right. We have expanded into what we call historic horse racing games. We own a company called Exacta Systems that makes games for our properties and others throughout the Commonwealth and outside the Commonwealth. And we have a huge online presence and all these casinos throughout the country.
But the biggest day for Churchill Downs every year has to be the Kentucky Derby.
First Saturday in May every year. That's what we're known for. That's what we're really proud of.
And now there's a whole week leading up to it. We're here on Tuesday of Derby week.
It's called 50 Tuesday for the locals. $5 general admission. And here we are right in the last race on 50 Tuesday.
See, I remember growing up when the Louisville day was Friday. And then I remember it being Thursday. And now we're back to Tuesday. This has gotten so popular.
That's right. The whole week is fun for everybody. Starts with 50 Tuesday. Well, actually, it started on Saturday night with opening night. Today's 50 Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday, which is when we are giving back to the community. So charities throughout Louisville are benefiting from ticket sales and from a raffle tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we got Derby. Friday's Oaks, and Saturday's a big day.
So being the general manager, no pressure.
Done.
You're only in charge with putting on one of the biggest sporting events in all the world every year. What's it like in the lead up?
Well, you just made me not want to come in on Saturday. But what's it like? So we start planning for Derby right after the year prior. So we started on Derby 151 and basically the week after Derby 150. We have a fantastic team that eats, breathes, sleeps Derby. We try to fix everything that went wrong the year prior. We do after actions, and we go through every detail of Kentucky Derby to make sure that the next year is right. Make sure that everybody enjoys themselves and that it's safe on the racetrack or the horses and the jockeys.
That sounds like, and you could hear the race going on behind us and how excited everybody gets. That sounds like your week after was like my dad after every test. You'd come in and he'd say, "What did you get?" And I'd say a 97. And he'd say, "What happened to the other 3%?
That's right. And that's really how we get better. We look at what we did wrong and we improve it.
So today, Mike has a treat for us. He has brought us Derby trivia to test John and my knowledge. We're going to see how this goes.
Okay, now I didn't do any due diligence on you, John. So the question for both of you is, who won the Derby the year you were born?
1977. I think 78 was affirmed.
Yes.
77 was a horse that did not win the Triple Crown.
You sure?
77 did?
You heard of Seattle Slope?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, wow. We failed on that one.
Big,
What year?
epic fail.
7 on the same as sales.
Here.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
wow.
you had 2 chances here.
I'm
We still didn't
embarrassed
get it.
for you two.
You
on
should
this
be.
one.
You should be. Well, how did I have affirmed
Well,
the
Burke
next
was
year
good. Yeah.
and not Seattle Slope?
Yeah, no big deal.
Yes.
Just Seattle Slope. He just stood out there in Midway at Three Chimneys for a few years after his career on the track.
Pretty successful.
All right, next question. Ready, guys?
Okay.
You can't look at the answer.
Well,
After that one, I feel like
don't
I
have my
need
glasses
to.
on.
What post position has made the most Derby winners?
Ooh. So I like betting, John, on the 5. It seems.
winner!
I'm going to say 3. Okay, never mind. 5.
All right, now what about the least?
I feel like we had one from 20,
We've had
not
2 from
not
20.
too long ago.
I'm going to say 7.
No, I'm gonna go somewhere in the teens.
Somewhere in the teens. You're
Okay,
getting on
but
it.
not too far. I mean, because if you're far enough outside, you can move in. But getting boxed in, I'm gonna say 14.
Okay, 14 is actually a big number that there's been a few winners, but 17, there's been 0
okay.
winners. The only post position with no winners is 17.
So you think that's because 18, 19, and 20 jump out and move in so fast they get blocked, or just luck?
I think part of it's luck, but guess who's in the 17 spot this year?
Who do we have?
Sandman. One
Okay.
of the favorites. This could be
Here we
the
go.
year. This could be the year. Okay, a little bit more. What weight do the jockeys carry in the Derby if they're riding a colt?
What weight?
How many pounds?
How many?
What do you think, John?
A lot lighter than the three of us.
Yes, each of us individually a lot lighter. I'm going to say 130 pounds.
126.
Okay.
Now, if a guy's
so
riding a
close.
filly, what's his weight going to be?
120.
121. That was
120.
close.
Okay.
You're doing
All right.
okay here.
All right.
Okay.
After I missed Seattle Slew, I've got to make it up somehow.
What was the first year that Churchill Downs used the souvenir mint julep glass?
So Brittany has gotten me some older glasses because I've collected these, much to the chagrin of everybody around me or anybody trying to grab the glasses from you in Derby. I'm going to say 1920s.
I'm going to guess 30s.
30s is right.
Okay.
1938 was the first year that we used
1938.
souvenir mint julep.
And has there been a souvenir mint julep glass every year since?
Every year, I believe, and I don't know the exact year, that because of rationing, they went to a plastic cup one year.
But was there still bourbon in it?
There was definitely bourbon in it, and then that makes it all okay. All right, here we go. When did the Derby move to the first Saturday in May permanent? So prior to this year, the Derby moved around.
Yeah.
And in a specific year, it moved to the first Saturday in May.
I believe it's been the first Saturday of May since I came to my first Derby in the early 80s. I think I'm on Derby 20-something.
I was going to guess 70s.
1931. So
Oh,
on the first
Okay,
Saturday,
so a little bit before the 30s.
a little bit
Just a little
before-
here.
So just about when you were born, John.
Okay, and then here's going to be my last question. So, when did we start the tradition of singing "My Old Kentucky Home" prior to the running of the Kentucky Derby?
When did we start singing My Old Kentucky Home? See, I wish I knew this one because, I get to hear it. And actually, we both get to hear it from inside the track. And it's just amazing how everybody's singing. You feel it. And then the roar of the crowd when the horses come around, you feel it through, every atom
It's amazing.
in your being. Every other answer's been the 30s. I'm going to go 1938.
1921.
Man,
Oh, wow.
guess the
Wow.
20s earlier.
Okay, now you've got to ask me who I like in the Derby,
So in this Derby,
in this Derby.
because now I feel like I should ask you who was favored in 1965 in the Derby
Exactly.
because of your question.
Native dancer.
That would- yes. So what are you thinking this year?
Okay,
And-
first of
and
all,
how are you making your pick?
Well, I've got a simple answer that you'll love, but the year I was born, I can't remember who it was.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding.
I feel better.
Oh.
I feel better about
Dust
it.
Commander,
Thank
year I was born, 1970. I'm old. No, here's what I root for every year at the Kentucky Derby. I root for all the horses to make it around safe, but this year I'm rooting for the Kentucky bred.
Okay.
Guess who the Kentucky bred is?
Who?
All the horses except for two.
Yeah. Each year. I mean, we've got this year we've got some great stories.
We do.
We've got our former Governor Brereton Jones, who we lost last year. His estate has a horse.
Yep.
We have Ron Winchell, who came just within a couple of lengths from winning a couple of years ago. We have the return of Bob Baffert to Churchill Downs. You got a lot of storylines.
There's great stories this year, and there is every year. But again, this thing is such a great tradition. It's such an honor to be a part of it. I pinch myself every day that I get to work under these twin spires. They actually pay me to come here. It's amazing.
Well, thank you for joining us and making us both look like we don't know anything
That's right.
about the Kentucky Derby.
That's my job.
Well, the day here at Churchill Downs is coming to a close, and so is this special Kentucky Derby episode of the Andy Beshear Podcast. Guys, what was your favorite part?
Well, besides the view,
Yes.
I thought it was great to hear the perspective from the trainer, from the owners, and from the people the fans that come and get to host and talk about their experience. So I think it was just great to hear the journeys and the stories.
I enjoyed probably the most Kenny's story, McPeek, about the emotional journey he had last year coming up, the training with the Derby winner and what that meant to him and the families that were with him. That touched you.
And hearing how Eric Wood loves this city and this
Yep.
Derby and almost serves as a host to other athletes and celebrities that come through. Now, between all of us, we've been to a few Derbies. What is your favorite Derby memory?
Well, I was going to say when I saw Giacomo win, because it was one of my first experiences, but then I thought about it a little bit more. And when I didn't have two nickels to rub together, I put a long shot bet on Animal Kingdom.
Wow.
And it paid off very well. And I never knew that much money ever existed in this world. So I still remember to this day.
I've never had a bet like that.
I would say my favorite Derby memory is probably sitting downstairs and watching the trainers, the jockeys, and the owners come through at the end of the night when they're tired after they've got the win, and the look on their faces is still one of just joy, excitement, and some surprise, and just watching them come through for that experience.
And Andy, I will say, it doesn't matter how many times you come. There's nothing like hearing My Old Kentucky Home before the race goes off.
That's true.
Pretty special. I mean, I remember a number of derbies. I remember when Unbridled won, and that was one of the only times that my bet had ever paid off. And it was a horse that always came from the very back to the very front. But the first year, my kids came. A couple of years ago, really special. John McConnell taught him how to bet. Thanks, John.
Okay. I wasn't going to bring some of that up.
But you did okay that year.
Yes, I did.
But you always
Yes, I
made
did.
the bets.
I always made the bets.
Thank you.
Always
Keeping
made
it
the bets.
legal.
That's right.
Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. No politics, just fun. Take some time this week. Enjoy yourself. Make some good memories with your family. We will see you back for the next episode of the Andy Beshear Podcast.
Let's
talk about John.
Let's talk about me.
You know what he
I want to
missed?
know what his outfit looks like this year.
Have you
Okay.
picked it up?
Ew.
Oh, yeah.
New, brand new?
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know? Were you there for the Super Bowl when he came in and he looked like the Russian mafia?
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah, I mean he had like the felt suit
You
and
were
a
there,
gold
Charlie.
chain. You were there, Charlie.
He looked like
I
Run
mean-
DMC.
Yeah, you're going to come in wearing a tracksuit. You just got to own it at that point.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe at Andy Beshear Podcast on all major social media platforms.
Coolmore America, often referred to as the home of champions, is home to some of the best young sires in the United States. The stallion roster is led by Triple Crown winners Justify and American Pharaoh, and with a fantastic combination of proven sires and exceptional young sire prospects standing alongside the illustrious duo, it's safe to say Ashford's iconic stallion barns will continue to house influential breed shapers for many years to come. This is a paid advertisement.
With over $25 billion recovered for over 500,000 clients, Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation.